Welcome back to Pawsitive Impact. My name is Rob Johnson, the host, and we are sitting in the heart of the Bear Factory. And this podcast talks about teddy bears and making teddy bears with a purpose. And joining me, as always, the men behind the brand, Jerry and Jimmy. Welcome, fellas.
Hey, Rob. Morning.
So listeners, if they were tuning in to episode 5, heard a very robust, interesting episode about consumer safety, product safety, which is an episode I quite enjoyed, learning all of the logistics that go into making a product like this very safe. On this episode, I want to go more into the personal side of the business and talk about consumer behavior, talk about how the customer has expanded over the last 24 years. And to do that, I want to go back to episode 1, and this is for you, Jerry, where we talked about the very first sale that you made with the Bear Factory and what that was like. So remind the listeners who may have forgotten or didn't listen to episode 1, and if that's you, go back and do that. But remind them, what was that first sale like and how did that go down?
Well, it was a multiple on the first trade show we did. We went down to Atlanta and we did our first trade show at that time, and we had a stuffing machine. We set up a pretty small, kind of rickety booth, and at that time we wrote a little over $1 million at our first trade show. That's when I knew, either we were in trouble or because we were still buying a product from another company, not doing our own, and it really launched the Bear Factory into a whole different direction. So it really did move us quickly.
Was that in Florida, if I remember right? Where was that trade show at?
No, that was in Atlanta.
That was in Atlanta,
yeah.
Okay.
Florida was the big, the stuffing machine.
That's right.
The stuffing machine sale, and you're walking around with a bunch of money in your
That's
pocket.
Right. Trying to look as inconspicuous as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So was there any anxiety after that? You're like, I just wrote $1 million in business. What do I do? Like,
Yeah,
what was that internal monologue like?
There was significant burn. What do I do? And this is where you have to rely on yourself and what can you do, as an entrepreneur. And coming out of the last business that I sold, I had many contacts, overseas in China, globally, and I had to really launch and get going on those. And I called them all in. I called in a lot of favors. And as soon as we did that, we, at that point, had one of the best lines, around the world.
Wow, that's incredible. And I know the business, that was kind of the conduit to everything exploding, and it has just, progressed more and more as the years have gone on, and then Jimmy's come in as COO, and there has been a lot of improvements and changes, but specifically with the customer base, how has that evolved over the last 24 years?
At first, it really was mall-orientated. The business started in what they called the A, B, and C malls throughout the United States and Europe. And then it very quickly evolved into moving into a lot of the amusement parks and theme parks and things like that. So these were all very large accounts, places like Atlantis, and we did it here domestically in the Bahamas. We did the one in Dubai. We had many different theme parks all throughout Europe that we did. And then there's other suppliers that came in and started taking over some of the European content that we had. But it's really changed a lot since the beginning. Even our bigger competitors now, or our biggest competitor, is now moving out of the mall scene, finding out that even the kiosk is, really slowing down. Not as many people are going into the mall, and it's not the experience that they used to have when they had a full-blown inline, what they call brick and mortar store. So now it is more experience-based, which is what we were always set up to do, and that's why, our company is thriving at this time, because Jimmy works on what is the experience, how can we make it better. With his introduction into, the eco part of the business, it's really differentiated us from everybody else out there.
Excellent. Jimmy, from your perspective, you've obviously been associated with the company less time, but what has that looked like in a shorter period as the customer has evolved?
our merchandising strategy, we've broken it down into 3 different levels, and those levels are really predicated off of what I've learned on how our current customer operates. We have a tier 1, which is a 4-wall roof, brick and mortar, standalone stuff-a-plush experience, and those are really dying out. Being able to support standalone can be pretty difficult if it's not within an attraction or something of the sort. So then we have a tier 2. This is integrated. So a store within a store, kind of this setup that we have here, which is our trade show booth setup. But we'll take, 1 or 2 walls and an integrated retail outfitting. We're plugging into an existing floor plan within a retail setup, but we're still really focused on creating that experience that has been commonly found in a tier 1 standalone store. So how do you do that? You have to have very appealing graphics and storytelling and branding and displaying the product, but we have the ability to work within a 12 by 12 or a 14 by 14 footprint and plug into an existing floor plan to maximize revenue per square footage. So that's a tier 1, and then we have a tier 3, which is what I would classify as a temporary setup or a mobile setup. So we're in the design process right now that we'll be launching later on this summer, where we're actually going to be having retail fixtures that are flat packs, so they can be assembled, put out at a fundraiser or a fair or something of the sort that still has all of the Bear Factory branding, and you can take a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 footprint and create this experience, but it's on the go, it's mobile, and it can flat pack down and be easy to transport and move around, and it's durable. So that's like our tier 3, and that's really predicated off of the mobile event-based customer that we have, which accounts for about 20 to 25% of our customer base right now, where historically, as Jerry talked about, it was more retail or amusement park focused.
I see. Something that you had mentioned in the pre-show that I was not planning on talking about today, but I want to dive into is one of the questions I was going to ask you was, how do you make decisions on what to do next from a customer service and support perspective? How do you know where the market's going? How do you identify customers and what they want? Jerry talked a little bit about how the experience has evolved and how you're largely responsible for that. And then you'd mentioned, well, we do these customer surveys. So I want to get into the survey data a little bit, and I want to end on the eco part of the survey, because I want to talk about these guys here. But walk me through the customer survey and some of the most surprising things that you've seen from the data that came out this year.
Yeah, so we just ran our 2024 customer survey. We call it our report card because we like to know how we're doing from a fulfillment standpoint, communications, customer experience, the product quality. So I won't dive into that too much, but I also put some questions in there regarding material management, and we're doing a lot on the back end right now, working with a Wisconsin group to actually focus on what's our carbon footprint, or as we call it, our carbon paw print as an organization in our supply chain. And one of the segments for that is customer feedback. So when we were going through, looking at that, I said, we need to put together another customer survey. And we recently pushed that out, and we had some great input that was assumed and solidified, but then we also had some new input as well. And I have some of that here just because it's all still pretty fresh information. But, historically, I think we've talked about on the show, it's about a 60-40 split in the marketplace as far as 60% of customers utilize a stuffing machine, and there's about 40% that still do hand stuffing. So it really comes down to your operation, your setup, your experience. Obviously, a stuffing machine can be a much higher volume, higher capacity location, You know, we have some amusement parks and attractions that do 3 million visitors a year. You know, they're pushing through over 3 months, 8,000 units. You know, they're pumping. And so they need a high functioning, high capacity machine that still creates an experience, but they're moving through a lot of people. But what I didn't know is of that 60% customer base who has a stuffing machine, we have about 80% of the market share with our Vortex machines, which most people would say, like, that's great. Mike, our business development lead, and we were looking at these yesterday, and he goes, that's 20% that we're missing out on. He's like, that's 20% opportunity. And he's like, what do we got to do to capture that? So I think a lot of that's older machines too. We see a lot of these, you know, units that are still air compressor powered and things like that. But for the Vortex only being around since 2019, I think that's pretty accomplished, and I'm pretty proud of that. But I think it speaks to the quality and innovation side, and how we're always trying to make that, you know, the Rolls Royce of machines, even though there's really not many competitors out there who make quality machines. So that was one particular statistic that I thought was cool to look at.
Is there anything surprising that you're like, wow, I really didn't expect that, whether it was positive or constructive or?
The sustainability, which I'll talk in a minute, I will say that what was expected was we went through, like, what aspects of our business practices matter to you. So we talked about supply chain management, materials management, product life cycle, carbon footprint, customer welfare. Obviously, our customers working with kids, the number one choice was customer welfare. You know, they want to make sure that their families are having the best possible experience, so our product is creating that and giving that to them. What I wasn't expecting is that materials management and supply chain were pretty hand in hand. Materials management being what are the textiles that we're using, and, you know, the sustainability of them. And that also tied into product lifecycle management. I didn't even know that a lot of people really thought about or cared about product lifecycle, but that makes me happy and optimistic, because that plays into, you know, that less is more model that we really like to focus on. But supply chain management makes sense. You know, customers want to know that we're going to be in stock and have inventory, but putting that materials management and product lifecycle on the same level of supply chain management, that was a bit surprising to me specifically.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to me how the trends change over time, and especially as you guys roll out new products and new initiatives, and, you know, we talk a lot about the eco side of the business, and we can go into that now, but, like, even, you know, Jerry, I remember when we first started talking about it, you know, going through the eco-friendly side, it was something that you were hesitant on, is that right?
Very, very hesitant. Didn't know that, you know, it would move in the direction that it has. And now, you know, in business, you're always looking to differentiate. Some way, somehow, how can you do it? Stuffing machines, the quality, the consistency, the durability that we have with our stuffing machine, it is why our competitors try to have their people buy machines from us. Now, we don't sell to them because we're not going to support other people's product, but, you know, that really tells you that what Jimmy did with the stuffing machine, with the Vortex line, you know, it's a time and, you know, true standard that we have now set up with the Bear Factory. In regards to the eco part of it, you know, the green side of the business, you know, the environmental side, it is now where we're going. If we really are to a point now where we don't care if the competitors, if the competition around the globe goes in that direction, we're going there. And we're going to redefine and realign, you know, our commitment to, you know, this planet that we live on with the quality of the product that we push out.
Yeah, it's important to know, I tell people, we welcome everyone to the Bear Factory, but not every customer is our customer. Meaning, if you're, you know, if someone's disrespectful to my staff, you get one warning. You know, if it happens the second time, you're done. We just don't put up with those types of things. We want to enjoy the customers that we work with, but at the same time, we've had to fire customers for when we rolled out our minimum advertised price policy. We had customers that weren't going to be compliant, large customers, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, that we had to turn away because they weren't willing to support the community as a whole and agree to and commit to these MAP policy and guidelines. So, see you later. Like, we're about building brand and establishing quality. We don't want price wars or anything like that. Like, everyone's time is valuable, and there's a lot of hardworking people out there. And for someone to just lose a sale because there's price wars, like, I have very, low patience for that.
It degrades the product. Price degrades the product no matter what product it is. Yes, we want to sell the best product that we can for the lowest price, but with us being B2B only, we have to make sure that somebody isn't selling it for 2 cents over what we sell it to them for, and everybody else that finds out that, oh, you can buy the Bear Factory product at wholesale, which you can't, we have to stop that. We have to support all of the businesses that we supply globally.
Yeah, in the survey too, we asked what's more important, price, quality, or sustainability. The two main ones were still price and quality, but quality came out number one. So quality, that tells me that what we're doing by, our product was a little bit more expensive than some of our competitors. We've recently had them increase their pricing. So their per piece product is about the same as ours, which makes me conflicted because I know our quality is much better, it's more sustainable. But what's even worse is, we run our facility, we run our fulfillment. They pay a third party. And what people miss is that, they charge a processing fee at checkout that they're just not paying attention to. So their products actually cost more than ours. So people have the perception that ours costs more, and it really doesn't. But the quality is far superior, and the time, attention to detail, and the materials that go into it, it baffles me. But I let people, I'm not here to stand on a soapbox. I let people figure that out. If they ask me, we'll talk about it. But some people pay attention and some people don't. But quality is always going to be the thing that drives what we do.
It's a process to find these types of environmental products, these recycled products. It is a diligent process that we have to go through. Especially our factories, they have to have those people that go and source the fabrics. It's not easy. They have to go and look around at many different mills in China, which China is a very big country. They got to go to a lot of different places sometimes to find the right fabric for what we're looking for.
Yeah, and all the fabrics are Global Recycle Standard 100 certified, so they have to meet our certain certification guidelines. With the recycled as well, you have to commit to usually 3 to 4 times the bolt size, so the amount of fabric. So you can't just come up with a product, a single SKU that has a certain fabric type and just push it into production. You have to be really mindful of where else can I use this fabric, because I need to buy 300 to 400% more of it, and it can't just sit there, because now we're talking about more fabric testing with the safety certifications, and it's not just a singular move. There's a lot of moving parts to it.
And you're talking tens of thousands of pieces per bolt of fabric.
Not a lot of room for error.
No, there's no room for error. That's why when they go ahead and they run these bolts of fabric and they put them on these long tables, like I said, it was 100 yards. These things are all digitally mapped out, where, say it was this piece on the top of the head or this piece right here, all of that is digitally laid out in laser cut with a laser on top running down, a chain, and it laser cuts every single piece. So there is very little fabric that is ever lost or thrown away.
Yeah, waste is a big thing too, that we focus a lot on. And it's like these types of conversations that I love having with customers, but there's only so much time in a day, and we have so many customers, and that's what I really appreciate about this platform is we can actually have these, and people can go and watch them on their own time, because we have a lot of customers who are new to the Bear Factory. About of this survey of the people who took it, about 50% of the people who took this survey were customers of 2 years or less. So they're very motivated, very active. They're willing to take these types of surveys. Well, I went and ran because some of these people provided names and businesses, so I started cross-referencing. Okay, that's a bit concerning. If 40% of the people who took the survey, is that a fair representation of our customer base? Does that mean that 40% of our customers are new? Well, when you go and run revenue numbers against some of these customers that we were able to identify, that 40% is only representative of about 10 to 15% of our revenue for the year, but every customer matters. So the question that comes up in my head is, what do we need to do to support these customers to get them past that 2-year mark, to the 3-year mark? And what types of resources and materials and merchandising with signage or swag or fixtures, what can we make this to make it so easy for them to make it turnkey to help them through that first 1 to 2 years? Because what is it? Within the first year, the average entrepreneur, 80 or 90% of people go belly under. So what can we do as a supplier within reason, give people more tools to make it that side of it easier for them so they can focus on running their business?
The good part is we still have people that have been with us 24 years.
Wow.
And to be able to do that in this business, as I said a long time ago, I thought that this was going to be a fad type of operation. I'll jump on it hard as an entrepreneur. I think it's a 3 to 5 year turn. This is going to be an in and out, and let's see what happens. And just do as much, as you can in that 3 to 5 years. And I was completely wrong. What this has really done is change the direction of plush animals, plush toys. You still have your pre-stuffed, animals that, are not brought to life. You have that out there. But it's becoming less and less and less. And that's why you see so many plush companies going out of business. It's why you see so many plush factories out of China going out of business. We probably get, 5 to 15 different factories out of China, begging for our business on a weekly, if not monthly basis.
Is it odd for you, Jerry, to look back 24 years ago and think that you started something that is now, you're the standard for the industry? Your largest competitor is looking at you guys and looking at what you're doing and keeping an eye on that and trying to match that. Does it ever mess with your head a little bit that you're like, damn, I started something that now is top of market?
Not really. It's surprising, if you get caught in that, then you're already behind the 8 ball. If you really look at what can we do next, that's why when you bring in new blood and they take it in a completely different direction, it makes it easy to stay current with what we're doing. And that's what we're looking to do. If we didn't stay current, we would not be on the environmental side of the coin.
Yeah, I when I first came on full time, I spent a lot of time learning the industry and having long conversations like this with Jerry and looking outside of the Bear Factory on what was going on. And it got to the point where there was no good examples that I wanted to live up to. So I looked outside of our industry. I looked at the outdoor industry, like Patagonia and Fjallraven, and
Sure.
Even looking at, Apple and tech companies with their efficiencies and things like that. And I've taken those mindsets and implemented them into a teddy bear making business, and looking outside of our industry was a big blessing because it gave me more perspective, and there's no one I wanted to live up to, and I very rarely even look outside of the Bear Factory anymore within our industry because I'm so focused on all the things that we're doing, and I know, to your point, like, we're top of market. Does it get to your head? No, but we work really hard, like really hard. We're open 4 days a week for our employees. We want to give them a healthy work-life balance. They're in here Monday through Thursday. We're on go 7 days a week. We're having conversations over the phone, at dinner, on the weekends. Like, we work really, really hard 7 days a week to make sure that we're always pushing forward. And I don't think anyone else out there is working as hard as we are.
Yeah, I would think not. One thing on the survey that I thought was interesting that we were talking about before we started recording was the importance of the sustainability. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen from the previous survey to what this current one had showed.
In 2021, we ran a survey, and this was about 8 months after we introduced the Plush for the Planet recycled line. And I was, trying to get some feedback on how things were going, because I was having customers saying, like, what are you doing, offering recycled plush, and what are your intentions? And like, my intention is to change the whole line over. And they're like, but the price increase, it's, you're crazy. And I just had to ask people, trust me. And I pushed this survey out. And at the time, 80%, I asked, how important is it to you that we implement responsible business practices? And we have very important, somewhat important, not very important, and not important at all. And at the time, 80% of people said not very important. And then a small portion of them said somewhat important, and maybe like one or two said very important. Well, as of this year, 2024, it's totally flipped. We had 75% of people say very important. An additional 21% people say somewhat important. So that's 96% of our customer base cares. And I think that is a relief, especially with Jerry sitting here, because he was like my biggest doubter at the start of it all. But if I can convince someone like Jerry or convince another customer of ours, through education, then I feel like we're winning, because people are, becoming more aware, and they understand the time and effort that is going into this and the importance of it.
The only thing I can say to that is it's wonderful to be wrong.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's the sign of a good leader too, Jerry. Someone that has the humility to say, you know what, you're right. And this took the business in a different direction that was good. And that's a good thing.
Yes.
And how much strife would that have caused if Jerry was like, no, I'm still right. It's not the right direction to go, even though there's all this data over here that shows otherwise, right?
Yeah, and it's great to have this type of information, because that can help us to continue forward with the type of content that we're putting out there for people. We're wrapping up Plastic Free July, this month with this episode being launched, and we provided a whole written segment on what customers can do in their businesses that are simple ways to reduce plastic use or reuse within their businesses. So, knowing that this type of content is actually going to be digested and implemented by seeing these types of statistics is humbling, it's motivating, and it's going to continue to energize us as we continue forward.
I love that. So on the eco trend, as we get into the plushie of the week here, I want to talk about these two guys.
Yeah.
On the table.
So I wanted to, with it being the end of Plastic Free July, I wanted to bring out one of our original Plush for the Planet items, which is Seaweed the Sea Turtle here. And this was one of our first three. So I think in a previous episode we mentioned we had Seaweed, Ocean the Octopus, and we had Gray the Great White Shark. Those were our three original Plush for the Planet line items that we said, hey, we want to take plastics out of oceans, and we want to create a sustainable plush line with it. So, Seaweed is by far the best seller. He's been around, he's going to stick around, and I personally love him because I think he kind of is like a pillow. But this was a very intentional and this is a very dear plush to me, because this was Jerry's first real big opportunity that he gave me to go out there and take a chance And fortunately, you know, that chance is paying dividends and has really helped sculpt who we are as a business today.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. Jerry, out of the three, is this is this your favorite of the original three Eco line as well?
They're all my favorite. As long as
Once
they
it
sell,
sells,
as long as they
Once it
sell,
sells,
they're
that's
my
right.
favorite.
That's right. I'll remember that for next time. All right, guys. Well, I certainly appreciate it, and I'll see you back here on the next episode.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So that's going to close episode 6 of Pawsitive Impact. I certainly appreciate you watching. If you're an audio listener, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel where you can see all of the plushies and the props that we have on the table here and what this cool set looks like. If you're a YouTube listener and you are on the go, be sure to subscribe on Apple or Spotify. We certainly appreciate everyone that has watched or listened. We'll catch you back in 2 weeks for another episode. Take care.